Good day, and today we didn't have to go far to find the next great thing. The NFL season certainly is over for now, but if you still need your football fix, our man Wisdom's got you covered because he just wrote a book all about it. It's called Pass Interference, A History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL, and it has interviews with some of the biggest names in the league, past and present, sharing their stories of racism, pushback, put down, unjustified scrutiny, verbal abuse, along with their success and accomplishments. So, Wisdom here to talk about it. Yeah. Congrats, buddy.
Thank you very much. It wasn't that hard to book me, though, right?
No, yeah. Well, you know, I hear we still have some negotiating to do for future appearances.
Right.
How did you take the conversations that you've had with us, you know, here around the place for decades now and decide, I'm going to take the next step and I want to share this with everyone?
Right. This actually started a journey that started, like, we're talking decades ago when there were tape recorders. My father and I, we used to talk about this when I was a child. So I would get my notebook and start taking notes about these players, these different players I would see playing in college and in the NFL, which it was a short list at the time, so It wasn't much work to do. So then I just kept keeping up with it. And then at some point I said, I could try to turn this into a thing. I eventually started interviewing some of these players over the phone with a tape recorder, recording the conversation so I could go back and dictate it. And then that went on. And then every now and then one would come to town, especially when I lived in Nashville. Joe Gilliam lived in Nashville, one of the legends. He lived in Nashville, so I had access to him. A couple of the other football players came through Nashville. I covered Steve McNair when he was in college. When I first started, when I was, picking up a camera, walking around with it, Steve McNair had just started playing football, and I was covering him. That was my assignment. So I got a chance to see that and then cover him again when I was in Nashville. And that was that Super Bowl year that they had to run. It was ugly what was going on during that time period.
You know, it's interesting because obviously you have the dynamic on the field and then the dynamic off the field.
Right.
On the field, you had people like Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb, who had great success on the field. Donovan McNabb, same year as Achilles Smith, not so good success on the field. What did you find when you started looking into more of their stories?
When you start talking to some of these different players, so you had Donovan McNabb, who, like you said, had the success, and then you start talking to the ones who kind of made it and the ones who didn't make it. Achilles Smith, for example. Achilles Smith played for the Cincinnati Bengals. He was in that class with Donovan McNabb, which was dubbed the year of the black quarterback, 1999. You had McNabb, Achilles, Dante Culpepper, Sean King, who was also in the book, Michael Bishop, who was also in the book. All of these quarterbacks were drafted that year. So you have Achilles Smith, who had one of the least amount of successes in that class. He was with the Cincinnati Bengals. He played about 16 football games. All right. And some people are saying, well, he's not that good. OK, here's the point. He played 16 games. That's one full season. He played 16 games over a 2-year period. All right. And then he was booted. You had other quarterbacks who were on the same level or less talented than Achilles Smith, who stayed in the league year after year after year after year. And therein lies the issue.
Yeah, Cade McNown in that same draft class.
Played with like several teams.
A decade and a half in the league. I'm curious for somebody like Achilles Smith, and I remember this quite clearly when he came out in the draft because projected to be at the top of the draft board, was at the top of the draft board, but it seemed like so much more attention was on his Wonderlic score than his football ability. Did he talk about that at all?
All of them talked about this Wonderlic score because it was about intelligence. This is how they graded quarterbacks on intelligence, and that's one of the problems with how they judge the black quarterback, because the black athlete is judged as not intelligent, not able to lead, not a great decision maker. And this goes all the way back to when it was professional football, when it first started, before it got to be the NFL. Professional football, George Taliaferro, who I talked to, played in the 50s before it was the NFL. He talked about how even back then, and you see him right there on the screen, he talked about even back then, that position was isolated from the black athlete because they did not want them to represent the team. And then they went through the ban where they banned black players from playing all professional football. Then they reintegrated. Marlon Briscoe, another person I talked to in the book, he talked about how he had a rookie year where he got a chance to play, set all of these records in Denver his rookie year in the late 60s. And then the next year they said, OK, thanks. Yeah. We're sending you out of here. And that was a common thing. James Harris, Doug Williams. Doug Williams, we talk about how great Doug Williams was as a Super Bowl MVP. He played 4 more games with Washington after that, and not another team touched him. I'll never forget Dan Dierdorf called that game when Doug Williams was the MVP. When they named him MVP, Dan Dierdorf said, I hope this puts to rest all the stereotypes about the black athlete not being able to lead a team. It didn't. Because after Doug Williams, it was still the same for years. We didn't have another black quarterback win the Super Bowl until 2015, Russell Wilson, and then Patrick Mahomes in 2020.
So now you fast forward, good transition to today, when you have the Patrick Mahomes, you have the Lamar Jacksons, you have the Russell Wilsons, high level of success, highest level of success in the league right now. So some might say, things have changed.
Right.
Maybe they've changed for the better. Have they, or behind the scenes, is it still the same?
There's been progress. As with society, there's always progress and moving forward in one direction, but the problem still exists. I talked about a study that was done at a university out west, and they put up pictures and discussions about black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks. This is done by a professor. And overwhelmingly, the audience side always said that the white quarterback was better, because even if they said in the study, the black quarterback is intelligent, they told them beforehand, but they still sided with the white quarterback and said that he was more intelligent. And the other issue is with the media, unfortunately. The media, when they describe the black athletes, it's always natural, God-gifted, athletic. When they describe the white athletes, hardworking, intelligent, persistent. So that kind of thing also feeds into this narrative about blacks being inferior and not being capable of leading. And that's when you get the coaching situation in NFL and all these other issues.
I can't wait to read it. Real quick, who was the most captivating to you of all the people you talked to in the book?
Probably George Tagliaferro from back in the early days.
Old days.
From back in the 50s, yeah.
How do folks find it? When is it coming out?
Well, we're going to have an official launch party in June. Process now works. I know that's a long time, but this is kind of like, okay, get ready, people, here it comes. So you have to follow me on social media and get all the information.
We'll keep
so,
all
yeah.
our viewers posted,
Right.
and make sure to tell your friends to follow Wisdom on social so you can get the updates when it comes out.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, congrats. I'm
Thank
fascinated
you.
by it.
Thank
You know,
you.
I've been a football fan, and
Yeah.
those old names were the ones that I was
Right.
collecting their football cards
Oh,
back in
yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to hear what everybody's up to now.
Right, right.